Girls, it's Mrs. Sutton here. I just wanted to say first, sorry about all the mass hysteria on Monday morning. I had a couple of issues. Google, at one point, I was pretty sure that I had broken Google Classroom, but I think it was just bogged down with so many users being on. So, couple things. The videos. If you were struggling to get the videos to work on the opening slides, don't worry about it. I mean, it's Footloose, great movie, Rudy, oh my gosh, and Goonies, come on now. But we had to get them opened. I had assumed that they had been checked, and apparently, when students checked them out, they did it on like their phone devices and not our Chromebooks. So if you're on a school Chromebook, these videos should be working at this point. If you can't get to it, I really wouldn't worry too much. All this is meant to do is just to show you these writerly moves on slide 3, just to show them in action. Okay, so it's just to kind of give you an idea of how do you want to start your Art of Argument final draft. What's your intro going to be like? How are you going to get the reader? That's me. How are you going to get my attention? So that was the only intention with these videos, was just to show you kind of some real life how-tos. So again, do not worry about those videos in slides 5, 6, and 7. If you were able to get onto them and you could kind of discern and figure out the writerly moves that were being shown, great. And hopefully you made notes on the slides right there. At this point, you should be moving into deciding how you're going to come up with your intro. We talked about this earlier in the year. Your introduction, the paragraph, should only be maybe 2 to 4 sentences in length. It shouldn't be the size of a full body paragraph. The same thing goes for the conclusion. So on this slide, you'll see I've got just some helpful, again, things we've talked about already this year with what you want to include in your intro. There we go. Again, Google is very slow. So there's some ideas there. And then on the next slide, those of you that did the Google Meet at the end of last week, we had talked about this in a few classes. You have a choice with your final draft in how you want to organize it. It should have paragraphs, and it can have, if you look at the first option here, you could have your introduction paragraph, one large body paragraph. It's going to be pretty ginormous because you're going to have your claim. I think social media is good for young people, and then here's why. You're also going to include your counterclaim too. So that would all be in one paragraph. It'll be probably over the 5 to 7. I think last year it was more like 7 to 10. Really should have silenced my cell phone. And then, sorry, your other option is that you can have 4 paragraphs. I did see a few students, more students do this last year. So they have their intro, then they did one body paragraph where they just stuck with their claim. And then in their second body paragraph, this is where they talked about the other side and they developed it a little bit more. So I think, Ardent, you had asked, how many examples should you have for the counterclaim? Here's where you wanted to have maybe a couple of pieces of evidence. I would break that into its own separate paragraph. And then finally, you've got your conclusion. So again, your options for your final draft, it can be simply 3 paragraphs where your large body paragraph, that's going to be the majority of it, or you can do a 4 paragraph where you've got your intro, 2 to 4 sentences, your body paragraphs, plural, and then you've got your conclusion. And remember, your conclusion should be similar to your introduction. This was part of the technology issues this morning too. I didn't want to talk about it. Anyway, I gave you 2 examples of what your final draft should look like, yes, and what it should not look like, no. This is still what I would call a flash draft, probably flash draft number 1, on the verge of 2. If you notice here, even just looking at it, it looks like a more polished, a more finalized final draft. So those are 2 examples from previous years. This is where I'd like you to type your final draft. Obviously, you just put your name here. Please make sure that you hit the tab button, that you indent. You can change the font, 14 to maybe 16 or 18, and just pick a font style that has upper and lower case. And again, that's review from what I've said earlier this year. I did give you that extra slide in case you need it. You may or may not. All right, so that's it for the final draft, for the actual writing. If you want me to take a look at your draft before you submit it, you just send me an email and I would be happy to do so. Now I'm going to kind of transition into an activity that if it were me, I'd work on this Wednesday, Thursday-ish. You could even work on it before you finish your final draft. Again, I tried to design this hyperdoc so you can work when you have the time. I know even in my own life, as you hear my cell phone going off, there are certain times of the day or certain days I have a little bit more time than others. So your last culminating activity for this project is what's called a WinchTalk. And we've done this for a couple of years now. This was the infamous Cameron Earhart situation last year where he went on and on and on with his WinchTalk and had a couple of snacks, almost choked. I think he was okay. No, he was fine. But this is the final product. So I've kind of spelled it all out for you here. It says it has to be 2 to 5 minutes. 2 minutes or even less. Just don't make it like 10 seconds. All you're doing is you're just stating your fact, but you're doing it in like a TED Talk format. So you're giving your claim. I think social media is fine for adolescents, and here's why. You can include some of those writerly moves. So if you wanted to include anything personal, you could do that. Last year, quite a few students, they would do almost like a little cue card on an index card or piece of paper, and then they literally taped it up here by their camera. So that way when they were talking, they kind of had little notes that they could look at. Not a bad idea. Then you'll really feel like a news, like an anchorman or something here, because that's how I feel. I did include, and I'll ask Mrs. Gannon to make sure that this works, I did include a link down here to our Winch Talks from last year as well. So you should be able to see them if you wanted to look at students from previous years. I'd also encourage you to take a look at, and I'll make sure that this is also live for you. This boy, when he was your age, gave his own professional TED Talk. So it just kind of gives you the idea that it should be formal. You should act professional. I don't mind a little comedy, but just make sure and just remember that this is part of your final assessment for this entire writer's workshop. And then, like I said, here's the link where you should be able to go back and take a look at the ones from last year. Now, last year we broke it down. We had red team and blue team, and we broke it down by class period. This year, that I will not be doing that. I'll probably just do like hashtag social media, and then I'll just put Blue 7 2020. So everybody, you'll get to see everybody's Winch Talk just on one. I'm not going to have 5 different sections. It's just a lot at this point. So TED Talk will be posted, and you're just going over your main points that help your argument. I would, and this is all right here, I would talk about the other side to the argument. You can't ignore it. You don't want to stick your head in the sand about it. You should acknowledge it, but then just make sure you finish strong with your final take on social media. So again, by Thursday, and Thursday I will post a final video, but by Thursday, let's say by like midnight, okay, your final draft should be all typed here. You will have submitted your Winch Talk on Flipgrid, which I'll have that link on Classroom, which you guys will be able to see in the stream. You're doing a really good job following that along. And then you're going to turn in this assignment, okay? And I did put this, I love this one here. I did put right here, you need to make sure that you turn in both hyperdocs, the hyperdoc that you worked on this week, and then you've got the hyperdoc that you worked on the past 2.5 weeks. I have no sense of time at this point, but the one that you were working on doing all your flash draft 1s and 2s, and looking at the first part of Writer's Workshop, that also needs to be turned in. So like I said, this will be your video for Tuesday and Wednesday. Just with the technology piece, it's getting a little cumbersome to get videos okayed and approved. And those of you that were eager to do work this morning and then you found out that the videos were not working, you can see why. If you have any questions on Writer's Workshop or your writing, please, please, please just email me. I am now going to change gears, channels, if you will. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, we also talked about this in the Google Meet the other day, was that since we've been out of school, I had asked you to do your writer's notebook, either jotting down entries in your actual writer's notebook or doing an electronic one. I will make this live on Wednesday. You could work on it Wednesday, you could work on it on Thursday. But all this is asking you to do is just insert your entry. So if you did a handwritten one, you could just literally take a photo of it. You could just insert it here. You could take a picture of it on your phone, go ahead, email it to yourself. You can download it, insert it in there. If you did an electronic notebook like I did, I'm probably just going to go back and literally copy and paste my entry into here. I'm probably going to have to change the font because I think the font was pretty big in my writer's notebook. So I might scale it back to like a size 16 or something. And then the only thing that we're asking you to do over here is just reflect. Why is this your best entry? Did you have fun with it? I know, like Killian, you sent a really funny picture in for the last entry with the egg. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, like over here, you could just say, this was funny. It made me laugh again. And I haven't seen this photo in 3 years or whatever. So again, I'm changing gears from Writer's Workshop. This is with your writer's notebook. I've asked you to do 2 entries a week at this point. There are no new entries this week. All I need you to do this week is just submit this slide back to me. So again, this is going to be another one of those assignments. Please make sure you click the turn in button. I'll be perusing all of them anyway, but turning it in just alerts me and it helps me out a lot. So I think that's it for today. I'm sorry, this is a really long video. I don't normally do ones this lengthy, and I'll try not to let it happen again. But this is a video instruction for both Tuesday and Wednesday, looking at finishing up writer's job. Oh yeah. And then what I need you to do for your writer's notebook. I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope everybody is safe and healthy and not too stressed out and getting on everyone's nerves in your house. This is just, it's wild. It's really crazy. I do and will have some new information about what we'll be doing during spring break and also post spring break too. But Mrs. Sutton and all of your teachers, we're getting information on a daily basis, and then we kind of have to stop what we're doing and then kind of readjust our instructions. So it is a work in progress. I just really appreciate the amount of work that people are producing and the amount of you that are still participating in your classes, and especially ELA. I'm going to try not to get emotional, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I've said this before, but I feel like, I'm just talking to a camera in my Chromebook. I'm not talking with you guys, and I miss seeing you guys so much. That's going to get emotional, but I hope you're doing well, and you're doing a great job, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.